My name's Quick Pick Nick, and we're going to try to make things a whole lot faster, so get ready for the next 3 or so minutes of injecting fantasy football into your veins with locks and lotteries for both FanDuel and DraftKings going into the Week 10 main slate this Sunday, November 14th. At quarterback, the best lock my model found was Tom Brady, who was actually featured in almost all top-ranked simulated lineups. As the third most expensive option on both platforms, Brady has significant value across the board. He faces the worst defense in the NFL with respect to allowed passing yards. He himself has thrown for the most passing yards per game across the NFL, and his cost is far below what could be expected from one of the best matchups this week. If you still haven't forgiven Brady for his evil reign in New England, though, a couple of cheaper lottery quarterbacks are Dak Prescott, scoring above 19 fantasy points in every game since week 2 when facing a bottom 10 Atlanta defense and allowed fantasy points to quarterbacks, and the man on the other side of the ball in Matt Ryan, who is significantly cheaper, has scored above 18 fantasy points in all but one contest over his past 5 weeks, and faces Dallas's bottom 10 defense and allowed passing yards. At running back, the best lock here is clearly going to be D'Ernest Johnson. He's still very cheap on both platforms and is currently slated for 80.5 rushing yards according to FanDuel Sportsbook. New England might have a decent rush defense, but Johnson was able to tear it up against Denver's stronger defense a few weeks ago, and for such a low cost, Johnson is well worth taking. Starting out the lotteries, the strongest pick in this section is Jonathan Taylor, who's starting to look like Derrick Henry or Christian McCaffrey right now. Taylor rushed for 2 touchdowns and over 170 yards last week against New York, and has carried the ball at least 14 times per game since the beginning of October. Other strong picks at the position include Dalvin Cook, with a lower cost than expected given his 19 carries per game, the second most in the NFL, and matchup against the worst defense in the NFL with respect to rush yards. Cordarrelle Patterson complementing Matt Ryan against Dallas's porous defense. Melvin Gordon averaging 17 FanDuel points across the past couple of weeks and facing the Eagles. And Philadelphia's own Jordan Howard averaging 15 fantasy points in that same span of 2 weeks. At receiver, one of the most valuable locks we've seen this entire season is Mike Evans. With Antonio Brown inactive and Chris Godwin's status in question, Evans might be looking at a chance to reclaim his top spot on the Buccaneers depth chart. And against that bottom-ranked Washington secondary I mentioned earlier with Brady, Evans has one of the best outlooks this week and is still somehow priced outside of the top 8, making this decision an easy one. Some other lotteries at the position include Chris Godwin, who is also an obvious candidate if he's fully healthy. Terry McLaurin looking somewhat spotty recently, but facing a Tampa Bay secondary that is much more easily exposed than their rush defense. Michael Pittman finding his spotlight with 24 DraftKings points per game across the past 3 weeks. Marvin Jones as the top dog in Jacksonville against the Colts' bottom 10 pass defense. Emmanuel Sanders, the most reasonably priced player on the Bills, facing the Jets' bottom 3 pass defense, followed by Cole Beasley if you don't trust Sanders after his goose egg a couple of weeks ago. Russell Gage with his expanded role for Calvin Ridley's absence in Atlanta, and Keenan Allen scoring above 16 fantasy points in back-to-back weeks with above 11 targets in each. At tight end, there wasn't so much of a lock as there were 3 almost interchangeable options. These players included Kyle Pitts, again facing that vulnerable Dallas defense as Atlanta's biggest pass catcher, Dalton Schultz ranking top 10 in receiving yards, receptions, and targets at the tight end position, and Dawson Knox, much cheaper with 4 touchdowns over the past 4 weeks going into New York. At flex, you've got plenty of picks already, and at defense, my model liked the Chargers, Washington football team, Jaguars, and Vikings on both platforms. And with all that being said, here are both of my lineups for tomorrow's game. On FanDuel, the only thing I'm kind of concerned about are Marvin Jones and Russell Gage, which is expected with their low prices, but otherwise everything else looks rock solid. And on DraftKings, sacrificing Brady was unfortunate, but Prescott saved a lot of money, allowing the rest of the lineup to be built with very few concerns at all. If you liked this sped up version of Locks and Lotteries, let me know, subscribe, thumbs up, do all the things, I don't know. And of course, thanks for watching.